Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood with Hegwood Law Group, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today, Dr. Eboni Green. And so good morning.
Good morning.
And so Dr. Green, tell me a little bit, just briefly, because you're a doctor. What kind of doctor? Tell our listeners.
I'm actually an RN and I have a PhD in healthcare administration. And my primary focus for the PhD was caregiver wellness.
Perfect, because that's going to fall right into what we're going to talk to today. So I just kind of wanted to just kind of pull that right on in. And so we survived the holidays, and we're heading into to 2022. Sometimes I think I couldn't fathom ever getting here.
Truly.
But when it comes to caregiving, a lot of things have changed over the past couple of years. With COVID and everything else. And so how do you think caregiving is going to be different and vital in 2022? What do you see coming up?
Well, I see that, as you mentioned with COVID, that has made a tremendous difference in the way that individuals work, care for children, and also care for loved ones. And so I would say that we've had to be very adaptive, that we've had to adjust to a lot. And I worry for many of us who, we're still not out of the woods, so to say. And I worry about many of us who have not had an opportunity to really process all that we've been through this past year with COVID, or now going into the second year, third year, and homeschooling and things of that nature have also impacted. So my primary concern with caregiving and the way that it is now due to pandemic and other things is that we don't want our caregivers to run into resilience fatigue.
So that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to prevent them from having resilience fatigue, what do you suggest that caregivers might do to proactively care for themselves?
Well, I think that we often in the caregiving world encourage caregivers to take care of themselves. We don't always say what that looks like or how that's going to fit into a person's schedule. And so I think when we're encouraging caregivers to care for themselves, we should always give actionable things like that can be done. And we should, and what I mean by that is just, rather than just saying take care of yourself, here are a list of things that you could do. Are any of these things of interest to you? And how can we make sure that one of these things at least happens so that you can do something for yourself?
So we encourage caregivers all the time to take care of themselves. What do you do for fun? What was your hobbies before you became a caregiver? Are you sleeping? All those things that are so important, for caregivers. And so, but we find ourselves a lot of times, in families where one person's the caregiver and everybody else is just kind of letting them do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's for, because they still have jobs or things like that. And so give our listeners some really good advice on how family members, whether it's, siblings, parents, or whatever, how are they able to work together to help meet the needs of their parents or whoever, their loved ones, whoever they're caring for, and still help that caregiver as well.
I do find that often there is a primary individual that's providing care. And it really often depends on circumstances, relationships, that type of thing. And family dynamics can be really challenging. So what I encourage is, again, being as proactive as you can with having a conversation or conversations with your siblings and your parents. Everyone doesn't have the same, what I would call spiritually caregiver related gifts. Everyone doesn't have the same gifts. And so I think if you have a conversation about, okay, in a holistic level, these are the things on a holistic level, these are the things that mom needs. I'm a nurse. I have no problem with helping with medications, um, doctor's appointments. Um, if it comes to personal care, I'm very okay with those types of things. My husband is going to be more inclined to assist with planning, with finances, with those big meetings where you need someone to chair those types of things. My sister is more of a comforter, a person who may be able to make meals. My brother in law is more of someone who would maybe be helpful with transportation. So, our gifts as caregivers are often different. And although one person may be taking the lead in one area, there are always things that other siblings have a inclination or a comfort with doing. And if we can encourage them to do that, or if we don't get them to do it personally, we can have them pay for that particular sponsor that particular service. And where I find this to be the most difficult to make a shift is when the caregiver has been providing care for a long period of time, and now they're feeling burned out, and so the siblings are like, well, what's changed? Because this has been how, we've been doing this for all this time. Well, as conditions change and as you have to be so resilient, your need for self-care and help also changes. So just being open to, first, if you can, if you're just becoming a caregiver for a family member, sit down with those siblings and hold them accountable to do something, whether it be financially or physically themselves, and then move on from there.
So what kind of tools and resources do you recommend for caregivers?
So the first tool, because I am always about empowering caregivers to care for themselves, the first tool would be our Emma tool. And Emma is a result of the research that I conducted for my dissertation on caregiver wellness. And she's basically like a person that's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You go in and you answer some questions about your well-being, and then she talks to you and she gives you some resources that you can access, as well as a downloadable guide that you can access so that you can do something for yourself. So I always feel like, really start with doing things for yourself, because if you're so overwhelmed and so stressed, then all the other suggestions we have for caregiving really are not going to be as effective. So I really encourage using the Ask Emma tool. And she's named for my mother-in-law, who we cared for, and she passed away, but who we cared for, so we named her Emma.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss, but I think that's a fantastic way to honor her memory in her life. And so that's awesome. And if I understood you correctly, this is something you developed, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so how long did it take you to develop it?
It's been years of not only collecting the information, but identifying the components of what we would consider wellness, gathering the resources. So in this current version, it's probably about 4 years of looking at the tool, revising the questions, making sure we have the right resources to fit. And it's been really a wonderful endeavor, and I think it will very much help caregivers.
Perfect. So if a caregiver wants to access Ask Emma, can you tell our listeners how they do that?
Absolutely. So you would just go to caregiversupportservices.org or .com, and right there in the middle, there's a purple bar, and it says caregiver tool, caregiver wellness tool, and it'll take you right there to Emma. And it's lovely from the perspective that you most of us are worrying in the middle of the night. And so we're not sleeping. You mentioned that earlier. And so being able to go and access something in the middle of the night that can empower you, I feel is truly important.
Perfect. And so, and your email address is?
egreen at caregiversupportservices.org.
And do y'all have a telephone number?
It's best to reach us by email.
Okay.
That's really the best way.
Perfect. And so, Dr. Green, I just wanted to thank you for being on the show today. I'm looking forward to trying out Ask Emma. And so, and I hope our listeners will as well, because I think it's taking care of themselves as a caregiver is so huge. And so I just wanted to thank you for allowing us to bring this out. So hopefully our listeners will take advantage of it as well. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.